from Ben Shapiro in his interview on trigonometry. This is what he says. And you tell me what's wrong with this. And Shapiro says, well, you're not promised that. He said, all you're promised in America is the adventure of a lifetime. He got excoriated for this 5 years ago. This is still his ideology. So the message to all the people that voted for democratic socialism in New York is, if you can't afford to live in the nation's biggest city, well, get lost.
If you can't afford to live in a big city, just leave. Buy a bus ticket and figure it out. Meanwhile, this same guy is on every single podcast screaming that America must send another $20, $30, $50 billion to Israel, no questions asked, or it's literally the end of Western civilization.
Quote, we have trained an entire generation of people to believe that if their lives are not what they want them to be, it's the fault of systems as opposed to decisions that are in their own control. And politicians have a stake in selling that. There's some truth in that. He says a lot of people in our industry have a stake in selling that. It makes people feel good about themselves and bad about the world. And the reality is, if you want a better life, you should feel better about the world and worse about yourself until you actually, go and do the right things. Here's where it gets good. He says, if you're a young person and you can't afford to live here, maybe you should not live here. That is a real thing. We've grown up in a society that says you deserve to live where you grew up. The audacity, imagine feeling entitled to that. He says, but the reality is that the history of America is literally the opposite of that. The history of America is about going to a place where there is opportunity. And if the opportunities are limited here and they're not changing, you should really try to think about other places where you have better opportunities. So much wrong with this message. And I would say in the first place, this echoes a conversation that Shapiro had with Tucker Carlson 5 years ago, where Tucker Carlson said, there's a feeling in America that things are changing too rapidly, that we are being crushed by the creative destruction of the market, the technological innovation, immigration, free trade. It's all altering society at a breakneck pace, and it feels like Americans in the heartland, in between the coasts, are sort of an afterthought. The industry's being hollowed out, the neighborhoods are being altered, the people are being displaced. He said, and people feel like they want to live in the town where their ancestors are buried, where 3 or 4 generations or beyond of their ancestors are buried. And they're being told, just go work on an oil rig or something. And Shapiro says, well, you're not promised that. He said, all you're promised in America is the adventure of a lifetime. He got excoriated for this 5 years ago. This is still his ideology. So the message to all the people that voted for democratic socialism in New York is, if you can't afford to live in the nation's biggest city, well, get lost. You grew up in New York and you can no longer afford to live in New York? Well, get lost. Go move somewhere else. Go move to Ohio or something. Go move wherever. If you can't afford to live in LA and San Francisco and Miami, Chicago, well, go move somewhere else. That's what America's about. You don't deserve to live where you grew up. Now, let's just say first and foremost, is the irony lost on anybody that this is coming from a Jewish Zionist who says that if Israel gets in any trouble, that America needs to go and defend them? That if Israel gets into any trouble, America has to send Israel taxpayer money? So let me get this straight. If you're in America, born in America, you're an American citizen, and you're born in New York City or Chicago, the place where your ancestors lived, if you can't afford to live there, you can't afford housing or transportation or cost of living, you got to get lost then. But if you're a Jew and you live in Israel and you have missiles flying at you, Well, then the solution is America has to go and bail you out? In other words, the American taxpayer has no obligation to bail out the American people. The American government has no obligation to the American people. Americans are not entitled to live in America. But Israel is entitled to all of that. If you're an American and it's not comfortable for you in New York, hey man, get lost. Don't expect the American government to help you. But if you're a Jew in Israel and you're in trouble, well, then America has to send you missiles and fight your wars and give you money. Really? Israel's health care is paid by America. Israel's defense is paid for by America. Israel's existence in the Middle East is guaranteed by America. The land quite literally was promised to them, and we are the guarantors of the promise. But Americans are not guaranteed their own country. Americans are not guaranteed their own city, their own town, by their government. Really? This is the problem. This is what we're talking about. This is why we are not happy with the arrangement. Ben Shapiro is a guest here. He's a child of immigrants, recent immigrants. He married an Israeli. Do you know that about Ben Shapiro? Do you know that his wife is not even American? His wife is Israeli, which means his children are Israeli. So let's get this straight. In Israel, they have free health care. In Israel, they're promised the land. Who? The Jews. Who is promised refuge and a home and opportunity and healthcare and security and prosperity and defense and a way of life and community? Jews are. They're promised a real nation. But Jews come to America and they say America isn't a nation. America isn't a community. It has no shared values, religion, identity, culture, anything. And you're not owed anything and you're not promised anything. If you can't afford a house, well, hey man, buy a train ticket. Like a bum. Buy a train ticket or a bus ticket like a tramp. Because the government won't look out for you. The community won't look out for you. There isn't a community. This is just a place where we buy and sell. This is just some marketplace. That's the problem that people have. Blood and soil for me, open borders for thee.
I need to know where you actually stand on this, because this is literally splitting the entire right in half right now. Are you team America first? No more blank checks overseas? Or team Israel gets whatever it wants, and if you're struggling here, just move? Type 1 for America first. Type 2 for whatever Ben's selling. I'm pinning the top comment with the live tally because this is the new litmus test on the right.